Hey, my name is Jordan, and I've been best friends with Marcus since middle school. We are very different, but that's why we get along so well. I tend to keep to myself and don't talk much, while Marcus is funny, charming, and a huge extrovert. About a year ago, I met my girlfriend, Angela, at a computer club. I really liked her, and I couldn't believe it when she agreed to go on a date with me. It wasn't long before we were getting steady, and I couldn't have been happier. But there was one problem. Whenever my best friend Marcus hung out with us, my girlfriend Angela wouldn't stop flirting with him. She acted as if he was some kind of god, and I hated it. I mean, I know I'm not as funny as Marcus, but seeing my girlfriend always laugh at his jokes made me feel very insecure. And when the three of us were together, they talked to each other all the time while I stayed quiet. It was so awkward. What made it worse was that Angela kept asking me to invite Marcus over. It made me feel like she only dated me to get closer to him. That's why I came up with a plan to take revenge and show Angela how I felt. My sister, Julia, has a friend, Rachel, who's a model. I asked my sister if Rachel would be interested in earning $50 to hang out with me and my girlfriend Angela for a bit. I figured that if Rachel flirted with me the way Angela did with Marcus, she'd understand why I didn't want him hanging around with us. My sister and Rachel loved the idea, so I invited Angela to have a board game night with them, and she agreed. Once we had a game out, I made my first joke and said, "Ugh, this board game is more complicated than the math tests." Rachel started to laugh so hard, she almost fell off her chair. She said, "You're right. You're so funny, Jordan." My girlfriend Angela wasn't laughing though. She already looked annoyed, which meant that my plan was working. After a bit, I said, "This game's alright, but why don't we play beer pong?" Then Rachel said, "That would be so much fun. I bet you're amazing at it." And then she fluttered her eyelashes at me, doing this cute little giggle. To be honest, Rachel was almost doing too good a job. She was flirting so hard, I felt a little uncomfortable, but I figured it was all part of the plan. After a while, my girlfriend Angela asked if she could talk to me in private. When we were alone, she got really angry and said, "Stop flirting with her. She's all over you. She's laughing at everything you say, even though it's not funny. It's pathetic. You need to tell her to leave." I loved seeing Angela all jealous. Now she knew how it felt to worry about losing me. I asked her, "So how come you can laugh every time my friend Marcus opens his mouth, but the second a girl seems interested in me, I have to get rid of her?" Angela shook her head and said, "That's different. There's nothing going on with Marcus." Then I told her, "Well, I like it when someone enjoys my jokes, and if you don't think they're funny, you can go home." "Fine, I will," she stormed out, saying, "Forget about seeing me again. It's over between us." When I told Julia and Rachel what happened, they were really sorry. But then Rachel had an idea. "Why don't we pretend we're a couple?" she suggested. "We can put up photos of us together on Instagram. I bet it'll make Angela even more jealous." So we started a romance, and you'll never believe what happened. Angela came up to me at the computer club and begged me to get back with her. She even apologized for flirting with Marcus and said breaking up with me had been a huge mistake. I was tempted, but in the end, I decided to stay single. If it wasn't for Rachel pretending to be my girlfriend, I don't think Angela would have wanted me back. And once I thought about our relationship, I wondered why I'd want to be with someone who made me miserable and kept talking about how great my best friend was. Did you know she used to complain I was too short and told me to go to the gym because she was embarrassed by how I looked? Dating Angela was a mistake, but that's okay. I learned from my experience and won't date someone like her again. Some things she said made sense though. She was right. My social skills weren't great. So I got a part-time sales job, which forced me to learn how to...
I was born into a wealthy family in Honduras. We had every luxury you could imagine, but then the economy collapsed and we lost everything. My dad was so embarrassed to become poor that he ran away. Meanwhile, my mom couldn't find a job and we were one step away from being homeless. I was only 15 and decided to knock on my ex-boyfriend's house. His mother opened the door and I explained to her that I desperately needed money and asked if I could work as a maid for them. She was a nice lady and said, "You can work here as a maid, but it's a full-time job so you won't have time to go to school anymore." I responded, "Thank you so much. I promise I won't disappoint you." But I had been a spoiled rich girl all my life. I wasn't used to working hard. Since I was born, our maid had done all the housework for us. And now suddenly I had to take care of a big house all by myself. I was scrubbing the floor when my ex-boyfriend Jose noticed me and asked, "What are you doing here?" I responded, "I asked your mom for a job. My family needs the money." "Oh? Well, at least you're still looking hot." Did I mention that my ex Jose was a complete jerk? I broke up with him after I found out he was cheating on me with his new girlfriend Joanne, the girl that had made fun of me since 7th grade. One night we had a school dance where I put on a beautiful white dress. But then Joanne and her friend came up to me and spilled orange juice over it to ruin my night. They were still dating, and one day while I was cooking for Jose's family, Joanne came into the kitchen and said, "Jose told me you're working for him as a maid now." "Yes, I do." She came close to me and said, "If you're gonna try to steal Jose away from me, I'm gonna destroy you." She was pinching my arm and it hurt so much that I pushed her away. She said, "How dare you dirty poor girl touch me? You're just a maid." She took the chicken I had made, threw it on the ground and said, "Clean it up, maid." Gosh, I wanted to attack her, but I couldn't risk getting into trouble and losing my job. My family needed the money too much. Meanwhile, Jose constantly flirted with me while Joanne wasn't around. I hated it though because he was so disrespectful. He would give me orders and get a kick out of watching me do whatever he wanted. I think he enjoyed having power over me. I felt helpless, and when Joanne came over the next day, she ordered me to give her a foot massage. Like I said, I didn't want to lose my job, so I did as she told me. Jose sat right next to her, and both of them enjoyed watching me work. It was so humiliating. And because Joanne was afraid I would steal Jose away from her, she decided to move in with him. That's when my life became truly unbearable. She would make me give her massages every day, made me do stuff like making her hair beautiful, and no one in Jose's family cared that I was being treated without dignity. I wasn't sure what to do. I was working 15 hours a day as a maid and didn't have time to get my high school degree. I knew if I didn't change something, I'd be a maid forever. But first, I wanted to come up with a plan to take revenge on Joanne. I thought about taking away her beauty. I knew Jose wasn't loving her. If she became ugly, he'd throw her out the first day. But how could I do that? I thought about doing something terrible like throwing acid, but that would be too brutal, and I'd go to prison for it. Maybe cutting off her hair? But it would grow back and she'd take an even worse revenge on me. But then I had the perfect idea. I poked holes into Jose's condom covers every week. I made sure it only poked through the cover so it wouldn't damage the rubber inside because I didn't actually want Joanne to get pregnant by Jose. Afterward, all I had to do was wait for him to see it. But it was a long wait, and Joanne kept making my life hell. Sometimes she made me clean her toilet after she had used it. And she always stood behind me making comments like, "Oh, it must be such a privilege for you to clean my toilet. I can see how excited you are." Her favorite thing to do was go shopping in Jose's expensive car and use me as a chauffeur. She would pull my hair whenever there was a shop she wanted to visit. And then, when we got home, I had to watch her try on new dresses for hours. It was incredibly exhausting, and she always said, "Oh, I look so beautiful. Too bad you can't afford this dress. But don't worry, you would look bad in it anyway." However, she also forced me to do her homework, and even though it wasn't fun, at least I could study and get an education. But then it happened. I heard Jose scream at Joanne, so I went in front of their door to eavesdrop on them. He said, "You poked holes in it because you want me to get you pregnant. I know you're after my money." No, I didn't do it. It must have happened by accident. There is one hole in each condom cover. And you want to tell me it was an accident? You think I'm that stupid? You're damn lucky my dad doesn't know what you did because he would rip your head off. She started crying and begged him to believe her, but he just threw her out of the house. Justice. Oh, so sweet justice. I was so happy she was gone. But the next day, Jose came up to me and asked if I had poked holes into his condoms. I responded, "What?" And he said, "Joanne claims that you have set her up so I'd kick her out. Is that true?" "No, it's not true, I swear." He didn't know who to believe, but allowed me to keep working in his house. Right now, my knees are wound every single day from scrubbing floors, but at least I'm making enough money to take care of my mom. And I'm actually getting along with Jose's dad. He's a successful businessman, and someday I might ask him to lend me money so I can start my own cleaning business. I might not have a high school degree, but I don't need that.
My classmate Bonnie was obsessed with seducing boys that already had a girlfriend. And when I caught her flirting with my boyfriend, TJ, I finally lost it. Get away from him, you pumpkin face!
Oh, but he likes me so much. TJ, tell me, am I your favorite girl?
I pushed her away and said, TJ, she is a tramp. Promise me to stay away from her. Oh, don't worry. She's harmless. But I know teenage boys think with their pants, not with their heads. I couldn't trust my boyfriend as long as Bonnie was around, and the other girls felt the same. So to get Bonnie under control, we all gossiped and excluded her. But it didn't work. It only drove her further to the boys. And they loved her, of course. She was thin, had a bubble butt, and always dressed like she was on spring break. Rumor had it she'd already slept with more than 100 guys, even though she was only 16. But that's probably an underestimate. Once at a party, I saw her kiss 10 different guys within just an hour. It was so disgusting. And things escalated on our class camping trip. I looked out the window for 1 second, and Bonnie handcuffed herself to my boyfriend TJ. Then she said she couldn't remember where the key was. I was furious and sat myself between them, but she kept tickling and touching TJ over my shoulder. Then our teacher forced me to change seats. Now I had to watch her fall asleep on TJ's lap, and it got worse. When we got to the cabins, it was already dark, and we couldn't find a hammer to destroy the handcuffs. So our teacher told TJ and Bonnie,
You two just have to bunk together tonight.
That's when I lost it and screamed, No! My boyfriend won't sleep next to that tramp!
Don't stress, girl. I'll take extra good care of TJ. You'll see.
He's such a good boy anyway. She started pawing at him